Good morning, Willowbrook. So excited to be with you as we start the year 2026. We know this is going to be the 250th anniversary of the founding of our great nation and the freedom that has brought us all. We're coming right off the Christmas season, and the Christmas story of Jesus' birth is an exciting and it's a wonderful time. But we also know there's stress and pain that came with the story. Classic movies like Jingle All the Way, Home Alone, If You Can Stand Christmas Vacation. I personally do not like the movie. You know, it shows us the pressure that could come when we're wanting to have that perfect Christmas, that perfect gift, that perfect everything. On Christmas Eve at Milton Frank Stadium, 6,000 of us gathered together and we sang Silent Night. But after the wonder and the beauty of that night came, there was violence. Violence came through King Herod. You know, he was so worried about keeping his power that if God was going to come into this world to save the world, then you can believe beyond a shadow of a doubt that evil was not going to go quietly. Now, you're not going to hear this part of the story told in any of our church's Christmas programs. Charlie Brown in the Charlie Brown Christmas story didn't even have Linus quote this part of the story. You know, Herod takes on the persona of Satan himself. And yesterday in our devotion with Pastor Mark, he talked about how God gave Joseph a dream to flee to Egypt. Now, Herod, when he realized he had been tricked, just to be safe, he ordered that all the boys 2 years old and under were to be killed. Now, the orders were for all those baby boys, Bethlehem and the surrounding region. The birth of Jesus brought the death of these babies. Now, this was prophesied 600 years before by the prophet Jeremiah. That's what you see in Matthew chapter 2, verse 18, where it says that the voice was heard in Ramah, weeping in great mourning, Rachel weeping for her children, and she refused to become comforted because they were no more. Rachel, that great woman of the Bible, was said to be buried near Bethlehem. And Ramah, well, that was the place that the children of Israel were taken as they were waiting to be sent into the Babylonian captivity in 586 BC. And just as in 586 BC, the mothers wept because their children were not going to have a future. Now these mothers in Bethlehem would weep for their children. You know, our world is a very wicked place. It was wicked then and it is wicked now. And you know, Herod, as jealous as he was, he didn't want any of the children of Israel to think that a king was going to come and be able to take his throne, whether that throne was to be a heavenly throne or whether that was to be a military throne. And we have to remember that King Herod was not Jewish. He was an Edomite. That means he had bought the throne of Israel. You know, God himself, if he was going to come and get in Herod's way, then Herod was going to find a way to kill God himself, whether he was a baby or whether he was going to be an earthly king. Now, God knew that we were going to need salvation. He knew that evil had come into this world. Think about the evil that's in our world today. Christians are being kidnapped and murdered in Nigeria by Boko Haram. Satan has convinced our world to fight for, you know, my body, my choice, my freedom. I can do what I want to do. Genocide taking place in Ukraine, the genocide that I saw when I listened to the people of Ukraine when I went there during the war. Today there are wars and there are rumors of wars. There's gang violence on the streets. The world of our generation is like the world in Judges, where we have forgotten how to blush. We don't recognize sin. We don't care that we have sin, that we live in sin, that our world is dominated by sin. So what are we supposed to do? The Apostle Paul said in Romans chapter 12 and verse 15, mourn with those who mourn. It was pure evil what happened to those boys in Bethlehem. Just pure evil. Now, what our world is going through today, that shouldn't make us weep. We need to weep for the lost of our world. We should weep for our children and what they face as they are growing up. You know, it's sad, but it also should force us down upon our knees and fall on our knees praying diligently for God to show himself again. And who does God show himself through? Us. So we need to be on our knees praying for the courage to genuinely care for our children's friends, to care for their parents, to care for our coworkers, to care for our neighbors, to care for those people that we see out on the streets and in our shops. We should care about where these people are going to be able to find hope. You know, God knew that they were going to need salvation, and he knew how evil the world had come. And just think what's happening is so bad now that God says, you are the hope. You need to be the voice that's crying out in the wilderness and saying there's sin in this world, but there's a way to live in freedom, peace, and love. Our freedom, our salvation, our hope. Even today, that was prophesied back in Jeremiah chapter 31, where the prophets said, restrain your voice from weeping and your eyes from tears, for your work will be rewarded, declares the Lord. They're going to return from the land of the enemy. So there is hope for your descendants, declares the Lord. Your children will return to their land. This is saying that God is going to work all this out. We just have to trust. In spite of our tears, in spite of the tears from the Bethlehem mothers, there is hope. Hope in whom? Hope in Jesus. The Messiah has come. He's lived among us. He has shown us the way to the Father, just as we can show others the way. You don't put a light in a candle and put it under a peck measure. You put it on a hill for all to see. The light lights the room where darkness is. You put a lamp bulb into a light to light darkness, and darkness brings, the light brings what is in darkness to light. May we be the light of Jesus to this world. Jesus came to show us God, show us how we could get to the Father, how we could have forgiveness and peace and love and joy and gentleness and mercy and hope. And God said, you're to do what my son did. And Jesus gives you the Holy Spirit so that you can do it. Family, friends, show Jesus, live Jesus, bring hope to our world. Stop the madness. And we can do that if we'll genuinely live the light of Christ. See you tomorrow.